So, good evening, everyone. We are so excited to have you here with us today. I'm very just over the top about tonight's panel discussion, and I could not be more excited to have some of the most powerful women I've ever met in the room tonight, sharing with us some wisdom, some jewels, and just their knowledge and experiences as Black women, what they've seen professionally, what their understanding is of American society as it relates to Black women, and how the feminist movement has affected Black women. You know, we hear talk about feminism, Women's History Month. So many people talk about the art of celebrating women, but there's an even bigger question about whether Black women are really getting the honor, the support, the recognition that they deserve in today's society. And so we have here women who have played so many roles over the years in society, who have made so many contributions, who have traveled, who have explored. So they don't just look at this topic from one perspective, but from the perspective of every experience they've had in life. And we are so excited to talk about how the feminist movement has affected Black women. Before we dive into the conversation, I'm going to go ahead and share some of their beautiful biographies with you, and then we'll get down to business. So Zakia Cowles is the Chief Queen Officer of Queenly and Confident Brands, which is a faith-based personal development brand. Through Queenly and Confident, Zakia helps women live, love, and laugh authentically, confidently, and unapologetically by discovering the royalty within. For nearly 20 years, she served the Girl Scout communities of Louisiana, Indiana, and Atlanta, Georgia, helping to shape the next generation of female leaders. In 2017 and 2019, Zakia graced the cover of two Catherine's Magazine's international campaign mailers. So you may have seen her pop up in your mailbox a time or two. She is a graduate of Grambling State University with a BA in Mass Communications, New Life Bible Institute, and recently received her certification as a Color Your Soul practitioner through the Color Your Soul coaching campaign program. And we are so excited to have her here. And as many people know, she is also my mentor who helps me to stay on the path of motivation and spiritual clarity, which I think is so important whenever you work in the public life. So very excited to have her here for this campaign. We also have Miss Alicia Calvin, who is a dedicated teacher and public servant who has committed the last 17 years of her career service as a political advocate and organizer. Alicia has championed issues such as education and has organized to help secure the first teacher pay raise in 10 years. She worked for the United States Senate Democratic Policy Committee under the Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, and she also helped to shape the Senate Diversity Initiative to help increase the number of people of color who worked on Capitol Hill. She currently serves on the cabinet of Emerge Louisiana and was instrumental in reviving the Louisiana Federation of Democratic Women. She has also served as the voter registration co-chair of the Ouachita Parish Democratic Executive Committee. Alicia was part of the 2008 OFA Campaign for Change to help elect former President Barack Obama. She did some amazing national work on that campaign. She worked the grounds in Ohio, one of the key states in determining the victory. Alicia was also on the grounds in Chicago, where she ran into one of my cousins, which was still such an amazing experience in the last election that yielded a win and turned Georgia blue by electing Reverend Warnock and John Ossoff. So when we talk about the power of Black women, here was a woman that was right on the ground recently for one of the most game-changing moments in American history. Alicia is the principal at Alicia Calvin and Associates LLC, a full business and management firm. She is very passionate about championing those issues that impact women. You may have most recently seen her on Comedy Central, The Daily Show with Trevor Noah, where she participated in a historic all Black woman panel to discuss the achievements of Black women. So we're so excited about that. And she was celebrating, honoring, and talking about the achievements of her soror, Kamala Harris. So last but certainly not least, we are so excited to have Dr. Erin Wiggins Gilliam, who is currently the Dean of the Whitney Young Honors College and Associate Professor of History at Kentucky State University. She holds a doctorate of philosophy in American history, specializing in African American and Southern history from the University of Kentucky. Her dissertation focused on the rich history of Black education and historically Black colleges in Kentucky. The research has catapulted her interest in discovering and revealing the rich historical contribution of African Americans and their contribution throughout the Commonwealth. She is the author of several rich articles and is currently working on a book about the galvanizing power of poet and scholar Dr. Maya Angelou. I can't wait to have that conversation. She has won several awards and fellowships that highlight her active role in student engagement and developing student leaders as they become the next generation of scholars. Her most important job is being the mother to Avery and Addison Gilliam as they grow and celebrate their Black girl magic. Oh, y'all just gave me chills and everything. So amazing, queens. And of course, you all know that I am Jamie Mays, 7-time published author, the owner of Jamie Mays Educational Consulting and Literacy Services, LLC, and also educator of 13 years who has now expanded my classroom to the world. And I'm excited to be here with you all tonight. So let's get past the formalities, ladies, and let's get down to business. I'm very excited for us to talk about tonight's topic because I think that it's essential that we spend more time talking about those issues that affect and relate to women. But not just women, we're going to talk about women of color. You know, Black women have made so many contributions and sacrifices to this country. But so often it seems that this country has not done a good job in recognizing us and the contributions that we've made. In effort for us to continue to focus on the need to propel Black women to a higher level of appreciation and recognition, I feel that it's most important that these conversations be held consistently, because if we don't speak up for us, who will? So my first question is, can each of you share a woman of color that you consider to be, I know a lot of people are sensitive about this term and I'll explain why I use it, either a Black woman feminist or a Black woman activist, okay? So I'll let you use either one of those terms. And so we'll start over here with Zakia.
Okay, I'm ready for that. Yeah, so it was really hard for me to pick. So you probably know who one of them is Angela Davis. You know, and if I had to come and pick a second one, it would have to be the groundbreaking sister Shirley Chisholm. You know, and I think I like the term activist better as well. So when you look at Angela, Angela, you know, in her presence, you know, back in the late 60s and in the 70s and all, you know, her presence within itself was very refined and dignified, but it was also offensive to some as well, just with the hair, you know. And then when you look at Shirley, as well, you know, she had the boldness and the audacity to do what people said that you couldn't do, you wouldn't do. And although she did not win the nomination, she still did it anyway. And she paved the way for our present Vice President Harris. And when you begin to think about the life even too of Angela, looking at the work that she has done for years, starting with what she saw going on in the prisons in California, even that she experienced in her as for herself, being a prisoner with the charges that she received, and that work that she continues to do today, that work that you don't see a lot of people talking about, a lot of people don't engage, because anytime, you know, there are marches, but when you're talking about a movement, you're in it for a long time, for a lifetime. There's work that has to be done. And so I couldn't just do one, I had to get them two.
Look, and I completely understand because Black women do so many fantastic things. So,
Absolutely.
we're gonna
Absolutely.
we're gonna go to
Absolutely.
Alicia next. Who would you
Well, I definitely was thinking about Angela Davis. Just her mere existence was able to, I would say, transform conversations. And you mentioned even the existence of her hair in its natural form. To some folks, denoted that she was revolutionary, that she could have been a disruptor, an agitator, right? But in doing so, we realized the strength in her just being herself and showing up. Now, another person that is near and dear to my heart, Harriet Tubman, y'all. I definitely have to roll with girl Harry Tubman. And
Yeah, yeah.
mine is true or not. She said, "Hey, I could have helped. I could have freed more had they known they were slaves."
Yeah.
Okay, and so I always work for the liberation of Black people internationally, anywhere I go. And so both of those individuals sit heavy in my spirit because they were community centered, and obviously were working hard for Black families and to take us to the next level. So those are my two folks.
I think one of the things that's also so amazing about Harriet Tubman is she freed slaves, and then she went on, which this country opposed, and then she went on to help this country by working for the military and things like that. They then used her skill and intellect to
Okay.
once again impact this country in amazing in a major way. So when you talk about Harriet Tubman, there are just so many things about her
Mhm.
that we don't often hear about. We just hear about, freeing the slaves. But this woman, that was only a small snippet of how amazing she was. She continued to serve this country in a major way. The same country that turned its back on her,
Mhm.
that used and abused her, was the same country she would then serve in a major way. And isn't that just what we'll talk about that
Yeah, we
later?
see that parallel. We see that parallel. We'll get back to it. Put a
We'll get
pin.
back to that. So, Dr. Gilliam, we're going to go ahead and what would you say? I'm sorry. Who would you say? Um, okay, are some women that are of influence to you, either um, Black feminists or Black empowerment workers?
I'm gonna use activist. I like that word. Feminist. I know we're gonna talk about it, but feminist and
I'm
womenist.
ready. I'm ready.
I'm gonna say Ella Baker for me. Ella Baker for the reason that we always talk about the modern civil rights movement. We always talk about I teach African American history. I've taught middle school social studies, and of course, it's always the same: Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, but when you think about Ella Baker, who served on the NAACP, and then she helped SNCC get off the ground, and she was considered the mother of the student movement, and we have in some regards, we have kind of left her out of the history. And I love her story. She sacrifices, I've read her book by Barbara Ransby. She sacrifices her life for the movement.
Yes.
For the student movement. And I also, of course, Fannie Lou Hamer, but I won't even get into Fannie Lou Hamer. But I'm writing a book on Maya Angelou, and I celebrate Maya Angelou also just because she was who she wanted to be as a Black woman. You know what I mean? When it came to sexuality, entrepreneurial spirit, she was all of those things. And I like she wasn't scared to tell us those things and to share those things with us before she left the earth. And she left it in 100 different formats.
Yes, yes, yes. And I
So
must
I
say,
think,
okay,
yeah. No, definitely. And I was, and I know y'all like, what? I was thinking about my next tattoo. I think it's gonna be like some words of Ella Baker.
Yes, yes. You know what? So it's so interesting. And I don't know how much you know this, but Zakia knows this, and even Alicia may know it. But I'm a huge Dr. Maya Angelou fan, and like we're not talking lightweight, baby. It's very serious, and have been since I was a little girl. So she was actually going to be my first person as well because it's a very, very personal experience to me. I've charted her a long time. I still watch her videos right now because she guides me in being a lecturer and author. When she passed away, I actually went up to Stemps, Arkansas, and did a tribute to her at their local lakes. And so, when you talk about liberation, when we talk about freedom of spirit, when we talk about the ability to resound, after she was a mute for several years, after she became pregnant as a teen, after she received so much disappointment, she still managed to find her voice and then use that voice to captivate the world. She lived in Africa. She lived all over this country. She was just such a free woman. And when we talk about a woman not having to live by conventional standards, she's definitely an example. Another one that I love is Alice Walker. And sometimes Alice is so far out there, but regardless of how far out there she is, I just love her so much. I feel like The Color Purple was one of the first books that truly gave a real voice to Black women without restricting us. And she actually showed what it was like to be a Black woman who was trying to use the voice you had, but was having it, as Oprah say, I know what it feels like to want to sing and can't, to want to say something but can't. She shows us that. In addition to that, she's a powerful poet. She even went on to create a women's movement at one point because she recognized that the feminist movement did not speak for Black women the way that it should. And so she's always been a woman that is against the grain. She's always been a woman that is outside of the box, who thinks for herself. And so when I think about powerful and influential women activists, it's just as I think Alicia was saying a minute ago, we look at that everyday life, right? And how their everyday life leaves such a significant impact on us forever. And I could go on, but because we have so many wonderful role models. But of course, we're digging into these questions. So y'all just, those are some powerful women. So question number 2. Do you feel that the traditional feminist movement has been inclusive of Black women? And if not, why not? If so, how? So whoever wants to start, you can unmute it if you want to and share with us.
So I'm sorry, I'm gonna go first. So look, let me just give a little. I went to the University of Kentucky for graduate school, and even though I studied African American history, I was like at that point the only Black woman in the PhD program. And I remember when we got to the week and we were talking about the difference between, my professor was Black, and we were talking about the difference between feminism and womanism. And in my 20s, I didn't know what womanism was. And then we began to talk about Alice Walker, and then we talked about Deborah Gray White. And she talks about this idea that Black women, Malcolm X said, to have the double burden of being Black and a woman in this country, right? And so I think about that, and it comes to the movement. And Alice Walker even says, like, white women have wanted us to join them in their movements. They have wanted us to fight for equal pay, which Black women we strongly believe in. They wanted us to fight for gender, birth control, and all those. But when it comes time to talk about race and talk about the false imprisonment of Black people of color, they're not ready to join us. And that's not just the 2021, that's historical. Right. And so it isn't that we have not been part of the feminist movement or that we don't fight for the things that the feminist movement represents, but you want us to fight for you, but then you don't come fight for us. We had to create our own movement, our own women's activism movement that had this intersectionality of race, gender, sexuality. And I asked the question on my Facebook page, and I always ask my Black women's history course, am I Black first or I'm a woman first? And for me, I'm Black. I'm Black. I'm a woman, definitely. But I am Black. I celebrate my Blackness this is personally me, before I celebrate anything. And white women aren't ready to hear, or the feminist movement, which has been predominantly white women, aren't necessarily ready to hear about race. They want to talk about gender, but they're not ready to talk about race all the time.
It's so interesting that you bring up the issue of pay, because if we look at the data, white women currently make more money than Black women, and we can't even get anyone to join in on at least advocating for us to equal what our white female counterparts.
And we're more educated. Like on paper, we have the more degrees, the higher college education, the graduate degrees. And so I think about those things, but that's race. You know what I mean? To me. So,
Yes.
all right, because I'll go longer than 2 minutes.
Anybody else, ladies? What would you say? Do you think the feminist movement has embraced Black women and supported us, and why or why not?
I agree with Dr. Gilliam in the fact that, they wanted us to walk along with them, to be advocates for them, for the things that they thought was, mattered, because they wanted to just put like a blanket of issues over all of us or around all of us and say, well, this is it. But then when there came to the things that pushed us out, that that made that made for us to be marginalized or to even be considered less than, for instance, like in the suffrage movement and things of that sort, asking, wanting Black women to be a part of it, but you want us to march with you in the back. Who does that if you're actually asking us to participate in this same march with you? Every time I hear a question of this source, I always think about the fact that, they want our rhythm, but they don't want our blues, and so when it actually comes to the fact of issues and things as it relates to Black women, and even to from the standpoint of where I worked in my professional career for years, seeing how do I say this nicely? Seeing that you wanted us in, but you didn't necessarily want to put out what you needed to do to bring us in, and so no, it has not been equal, and it has not been very inclusive of us, because they only wanted the liberation, or they only wanted to embrace us for that they thought was important, but to push us out when it came to things that were issues for us. Yeah.
I think the ladies are spot on this, and I just want to take a moment to just share an observation. I went to a conference, and we were to identify. Each person was to choose whether or not they were going to go to a room labeled Black, a room labeled white, a room labeled LGBT, and a room labeled women. Almost instantaneously, everyone with melanin, deep melanin in their skin, Black folks, moved into one room, regardless of their gender. We saw white women go to the room labeled women. We saw white LGBT males go to the space for LGBT, and then we observed that white straight girls went to that room. I bring that up to say that we are incapable, we are not capable, say, of divorcing ourselves from the reality of race. No matter how uncomfortable it makes someone feel, no matter how they feel like it's so controversial, the color of my skin should not be that controversial if you are my Christian sister and you stand with me. There are moments in life where you have to stand for what's right. And as they have already said before, an issue of Black lives in particular is one that has been a little divisive in recent times. Okay. So we have to have advocates when it comes to our sons, comes to our nephews, when it comes to our husbands. Those are key components of our family. And so this has always been an extreme, I would say, burden on Black women to say, hey, look, I'm standing with you, but hey, friend, where are you? Where are you? All right.
Yeah.
So we're at a moment in time where we should all be for the humanity of all folks. I'm a key proponent for humanity of all folks. And even still, Black women have worked tirelessly for other people's household, rearing their children, even while neglecting their own. And it seems that it's been a lot of thankless work. But for the folks who are hearing us in 2021, this is the time for us to bind together and change. So I would say that the feminist movement has not fully embraced Black women when they needed a feminist movement the most.
I think you guys make such valid and interesting points when you talk about the fact that when we've needed allies the most, right? When we have had pressing public issues.
Right.
Above all, even if you have not stood with us on a smaller platform, during individual meetings within the community, when we've come to the national light and have seen things that are blatantly wrong, blatantly unfair, as mothers, as women, as entrepreneurs, we have sought to have unity to stand with us, but We have not. But however, when it's time for a feminist movement to move forward, it's kumbaya. Everybody get
Yeah,
on board. Everybody
yeah,
come stand. And the first hero is always a black person. And I
yeah,
believe it's because we always have the voices that shake the room.
yeah,
We have the
yeah,
conviction. We
yeah.
have the ability to really make people feel moved, even when they do not acknowledge that we have
Mm-hmm,
shaken the room.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
so what you say, ladies, it's so powerful because we should not have to continue to enter these spaces where we literally feel as if we are, um, in a sense, begging people for support. Do you understand
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? And continuously having to look for someone to stand with us. Because truth be told, when there's an issue, quite often black women are the first at the scene. We talk about the fact that even Black Lives Matter was founded by three black women.
True.
Yeah.
Georgia was flipped by black women.
True.
When the siren goes off, the black woman already has her jeans and t-shirt on. Nikes, and if I need my Vaseline, let's go. And so you say some very powerful things in that. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the next question that kind of ties in with some things you already said. What are some experiences that makes the black woman's experience different from her non-black counterparts? And I think this ties into feminism because I sent we looked at a couple of articles and have heard the word intersectionality pop up so many times.
Right.
And so
Sweet.
every time I look at articles on intersectionality, I think about people's ability to relate if the intersectionality does not hit you in certain areas. So I'm going to throw that question back out to you again. How do you feel, excuse me, what are some issues and experiences that makes the black woman experience different from her non-black counterparts? We can start with, I'll leave it open for you ladies to answer. I don't like to say. Okay, let's start with Zakia.
Oh, you're fine.
Y'all so sweet.
Um, if there was one thing that I feel that is so different, and this is based on, and I'm just gonna just keep it real, based on my experiences in the real world. Just like I think it was Dr. Gilling that mentioned the fact that we have all the education and things. The stats show that. But coming into the workplace, and even to I found with volunteering too, with predominantly white female or organizations or whatever the case may be, there's always this thing of having to prove almost like what you put on paper is valid.
Yeah.
Uh, I can have all degrees and certifications, but if I'm not coming there doing what they expect and performing and working in the timely manner in which they expect, it could cause some possible problems. Even too, if I am forging too many relationships or too many allies with people across the lines that they've not traditionally reached.
Mm-hmm.
It could be a problem. And I am certain, without a shadow of a doubt, that our white counterparts do not experience that. And many times, let's just be real, we've seen, much more lackluster, subpar performance with them many times where we have gone straight all out, put our own money, heart, sweat, and tears and things to get things to work, but still sometimes just receive the crumbs, or the scraps from that were meant for the dogs. And so um, those things, again, they'll never understand that blues because you don't have this melanin, baby. Never, never.
So Zakia said something that really shook me when she said we have to learn how to basically walk the line between doing enough and not doing too much. And black women don't talk about that very often. How you get treated and viewed if you come in and knock the roof off the building.
Yeah.
But how it's so true that you have to try to figure out in the corporate world how to be excellent but not be too excellent because it's very true. So go ahead, ladies. Whoever wants to be next. That was a great statement that just kind of wow.
I think that as we were preparing for this, I had read this article, and it talks about how Black women have to fight the weaponization of white women, especially in the workplace, or the weaponization of white women tears. And it talks about, and I think that when I think about the obstacles that I've had as a Black woman, just my personal experience, graduate school, now in higher ed administration as a dean, it is white women, can do the I'm intimidated, I'm hurt, they can play that role, and then it leaves us in the position, or it leaves me in the position, I'm just personal, that now I'm the angry Black woman. So I have to, like Zakia, you said, like, this, I have to toe this line between how I address this certain person, how I address the white man, how I address my white colleagues, male and female, how I address and let me tell you this, I love Black men. I have children with the Black men. I love Black men. But we can't dismiss, and I hate to do it on a public forum, we can never dismiss the dynamics that we also have with our men, and that we have with white men and white women, and all these things come into play. And as we navigate that, not only in our home life and our personal life, now I'm stuck down in my mid-30s trying to navigate that in my professional life. I can't say that to this person. I can't, she'll cry and this will happen. And it's just like this emotional, I don't want to call it torture, because nothing's going to torture me. I'll go to sleep and go home. But it is this, just this constant, what do I do next? Or this anxiety of what decisions to make next for myself and for my profession. You know what I mean?
It's amazing. When you talked about just learning how to balance, basically even knowing how to tread lightly around your white female counterparts, because regardless of what we say, white women are still protected by white society.
Yep.
And so we are, if it comes down to the two of you in a room, you are first viewed as the enemy, the aggressor, even if you're not the person at fault. And I can share that as a firsthand experience. And so what you make in that, what you say in that statement is so important. But it also ties to the idea for me of, why would the feminist movement bring us on board if part of, and I don't mean that in terms of us wanting to, be down with you, but just the idea of bringing in any type of unity, when bringing in that unity means we start first with your personal accountability and addressing your mess in the room. And that's a very real conversation. So what you said is so important. Ms. Calvin, did you have anything that you wanted to share about that topic? We can't hear you.
I said, again, a lot of people take on a number of the key components, so I'll try to expand the conversation. When it comes to Black women, there's this sort of glorifying of the struggle, right? That we have to struggle for every single thing. And sometimes it is co-signed, by our female counterparts. And so I think that's something that we definitely need to do away with. It's perfectly okay for a number of folks to watch Black women struggle. It doesn't bother them. It doesn't invoke any type of emotional response. And I think white tears were mentioned and how they are weaponized. The damsel in distress always evokes compassionate response, but Black women aren't able to embody that and have that same type of compassionate response. And that's something that we cannot ignore. I will say this much: when you talk about the different experience of Black women, you cannot counter what it takes to get there. We mentioned being the most highly qualified individuals when it comes down to academics, right, credentials and things of that nature. But it takes so much for us to get in the room, and then it seems like double or triple it to stay in the room. So to the effect that, maybe white women counterparts can have that conversation disagreement with the white man, but they still are full recipients of the benefits of the what we call that white privilege, right? That bill, so they can go back and forth, but still go home and enjoy that particular privilege. Black women don't have that, and so we have to be honest about that and put that on the record. I don't think any of this is going to change, and I'll say this across the board as I talk about humanity. I'm Alicia for humanity. Until we deal with the liberation of Black people, we won't be able to fully unify. Okay. And so that is something that the country has to recognize, but I think it's something that the international world has seen. And in particular, I hate that it took in recent times a man to kneel on another man's neck, okay, for the world to finally acknowledge in the right way that there have been injustices that have happened
Yes.
to our family members. Because every time something happens to someone, it feels like a distant cousin. We're all impacted by that. But I also say this: there's a certain level of respect that is missing when it comes to approaching and addressing Black women. That has also been normalized. That you can talk and speak down to them. We've been kind of characterized as a workhorse. Again, I reference the fact that we have basically fed people's children from our own breasts. Again, and neglecting our own home. And so we have to stop that. Like, it is not okay to dehumanize women, Black women in particular, for the benefit of the whole. And you did bring up something. What happens to feminism and the benefits if you do solve this problem, right? So we can't also ignore the fact that when people talk about, policies and procedures that speak to this, you can't ignore affirmative action. Whereas white women are the biggest benefactor to affirmative action, right? And so a lot of people like to throw those characterizations on a lot of Black women. But a lot of times those Black women have those credentials and qualifications to be in that room. And we don't get to enjoy any type of legacy status to get us there. So I'll end with just that. Our experiences are different in a number of ways. And again, until the liberation of all Black people has been tended to and taken care of, we'll still be just kind of hitting at it and missing.
Definitely. That was deep. I want to share an experience because what you say is true, the true liberation of our people. And that's a powerful statement, and one that people tend to neglect or not fully embrace, that we have not been able to receive full liberation. And so I want to share a story, and then I'll go to the next question. I worked on a job, and I had been there for a while, and I was getting rave reviews. The reason that they brought me in was because my reputation as bringing in the test scores and really going very hard for the students and having a great relationship with the kids. That's why they hired me. They actually hired me with the intent initially to make me a teacher of the honors and gifted. When I got there, a white teacher changed her mind and she wanted it, and I did not get the job. So they put me in, just another position, which was fine with me because I bloom where I'm planted. But I remember going to them and saying, look, I just don't understand why I can't get more opportunities to present. When we go to the districts to have conferences and meetings, you send people from this school, but you never send me. And I'm the person that's giving you the highest scores this district has ever seen. And I told them straight up, I said, you don't have any other teachers in this building. At this time, I had written 4 books, who have written 4 books, and that you all have actually checked out and know it's excellent quality. And I published a book with my students. And you know what I was asked? Well, have you ever thought about writing a book about education? I've already written a book and I give it to you all for free. But as a Black woman, I knew exactly what it was. I knew why. I knew why I got that answer. Because first of all, no other white woman would have to come in if she was performing the way that I was. She wouldn't have to come to your office and ask you for the opportunity to present to the district when this is already something she does outside of this classroom. She wouldn't have to come and say, hey, I have these books published, why don't you use me? It would already be done. The platform would be created. But these are examples of some of the things we have to deal with as Black women in the workplace, where our voices are not always heard. So it's a hard thing that we have to deal with. So we're going to go to the next question, of course. So we're going to go back to feminism for a minute, the term of feminism. How would you ladies describe feminism? And what do you feel is a misconception about feminism? It can be regarding Black women's involvement. It can be regarding the definition of the word. It can be regarding how feminism plays a role in our lives. So what do you think is a misconception about that term?
For me, I will say, I've always had this negative connotation about the word feminism. I'm gonna be honest. I think I can appreciate the readings you sent, and which gave me a different perspective. But like I said, reading Alice Walker, reading Deborah Gray White, Darlene Clark Hine, it was always this idea that Black women, when it came to the idea of womanism, and that we participate, we have to have, because of race and because of gender, we've had to create our own sense of feminism, if that makes sense. We've had to leave. I mean, we know one of the reasons that Ella Baker even leaves NAACP is because of relations with the Black community or Black men. You know what I mean? We leave the women's movement in the 60s, the first way, because of race. So it's this own like collective that we've created our own version, I guess we could call it. We've created our own version of feminism that works for being a Black woman in America, and that works, that we've had to define it on our own terms. And I think that's powerful in itself, is that we're not allowing anyone to define anything for us at this point. That we're going to define it, and we're going to lead our movement. We're going to definitely, I think that at the end of the day, we're always going to be with, for me, we're always going to be with our Black men, be with the Black community. My first priority is the Black community. Ms. Calvin had talked about that until we're all liberated in the whole Black community, that, you know, we won't ever see the progress. And so I truly believe in that. And so I said all that to say that we have carved out our own version of feminism that hits the points of race and gender for us. And I think when we talk about race, gender, about Black women and sexuality, Black women and disabilities, Black women and all these types of things, that is inclusive of our movement.
Anybody else? That's profound. When she talks about inclusive of our movement, like when you talk about Black feminism, it's not just Black feminism. It's really and it reminds me of what I've been talking about, right? Is an extension of everything that is connected to us. I love that. I love that. Anybody else?
I love the way that she articulated that. And I just wanted to expand the conversation a little bit in that the word has, kind of like how liberal became a dirty word, feminism has become a dirty word. And also just one that a lot of Black women don't identify with, right? So when you talk about policy prescriptions to tend to the needs of a Black woman, if I don't see that at the end of the fight, if I don't see that policy prescription that enhances my daily life, then a lot of them tend to not identify with feminism as a whole. But I will segue into clapping for your own self, right? Black women not being elevated by other entities. And so you hear Black girl magic. Black girl magic to elevate and empower other women who are striving to do better, who have made contributions in communities, internationally, in your local neighborhood. Those things are very necessary for a group of individuals who have, again, not been acknowledged for the contributions that they have made as a whole. And I'll stop there.
I love it. I love that. Anybody else? I will say that I think that when it comes down to what feminism looks like for the Black woman, it's really just us standing together as Black women without being apologetic. Because Black women have been powerful. We've been activating our powers. We've been saving others. We've been wearing our cape. Sojourner Truth spoke. She did one of the most powerful speeches of the feminism movement for the sake of benefits that wouldn't even reach her. White women could vote before she could vote, and she was speaking. She coined the term, "And ain't I a woman?" And to this day, it's still, that speech still resonates today because the black woman is still suffering at the hands of America. Look at what's going on in Georgia right now. They're not mad about this alleged rigging of the election. They're angry because black women once again have defied the odds by standing together. What we saw in Georgia, that was feminism. Black women came from all over the country to stand together and make this happen. And honestly, they stood in agreement knowing that Stacey Abrams might be the face, but we are a unit for this cause. And they did it. They didn't even do it to uplift another black woman into the position. They uplifted a black man and a white man into the position, but for the sake of all the people in that state and for the sake of this country. So when I consider what black feminism looks like, see, for us, it's always a different prescription because black women have never been able to be solely about themselves. We've always been about the betterment of everybody else. So black feminism says for a change that I can finally be free and broken of the chains that constrain me from being able to be myself, but I am linked up with sisters who also celebrate being a woman, being black, being powerful, as everybody knows, being magical, right? And so black feminism is us embodying this together without being criticized anymore, without being restricted. If you want to get up, sis, and learn how to fly a jet, nobody's going to say, oh, sis, you got 2 kids, you cannot fly a jet. Oh, sis, you oh no, and no man's going to want you if you fly a jet, sis. Breaking those types of conversations from us so that black women can fully live in themselves to be happy and be free. But we cannot do it without all of us coming together like we do all the time and saying, I am not advocating for myself anymore. I'm advocating for my sister. And when I advocate for my sister, we advocate for our community. When we advocate for our community, we advocate for this state. When we advocate for this state, we advocate for this world. We still do it. But so many times the black woman is tired individually. And when I think of what black feminism is, it's about the collective movement among black women to say, you don't have to do this alone anymore. Sis, let me take your cape off and wash it for you, girl. We'll do this superhero role tonight. We have you, right? That's what it comes down to. And us being comfortable enough in that to say, you know what, I'm happy, I'm at peace. And I love who I am. I'm comfortable. I love my magic. And I shimmy and shake it. I no longer have to hide it. That way we can stop having to stress about whether or not jobs recognize us. We can stand together and say, I don't have to have a white feminist movement to get on board with me. Black women, we're going to get together. And just like we saved Georgia, we're going to save ourselves and get our 60% back. Because there's no reason a black woman should continue to have $200,000 in student loans while only making $50,000 a year. So I think that's just, my perception as I've looked. I don't want to not be viewed as there's nothing wrong with saying that feminism is a thing amongst you as a black woman. But the thing is, how does that word apply to me? How does it fit into my life? How does it fit into the people I have to function and work with each day? Right? And so sometimes if we want to change the way we look at so many things in this world, let's change the way we look at that term. Because quite often people will do what they have to do to try to downplay, right, the movements we have. And we as black women have the ability to always, lift things up. So I'm just thinking I think in those terms. And that's why I wanted to throw that question out there and ask you ladies, what do you think? What do you see? What's on your mind about that term? So let's go to the next question. If you look back at history, so I'm dancing around a little bit because I like to connect the dots, okay? If you look back in history, do you feel the feminist movement was ever designed with the black woman in mind? And I'm going to go ahead and start with our historian because I can't help but to start with our history professor here.
You already know how I feel about that question. No, of course. The feminist movement was created by white women for white women. Now, did we create our own version of feminism and womanism? Heck yeah. Have we accomplished things historically, contemporarily for Black women and not even just Black women, as Black women, for the entire Black community in the African diaspora? Heck yeah, we have. But when feminism was created, no, it was for white women. But they realized our strength and our voice and our power, they needed us in their movement. Now, they wanted us to march in the back of the movement, but just like you said, Jamie, Sojourner Truth gave one of the first speeches about can women vote, and she didn't even get to see Black women vote. You know what I mean? So when we think about those type of things, Black women have always been a part of every single movement in this country. I always start my conversations with my students who are the first abolitionists. And they always try to tell me the Quakers or something. Nope, Black people. Black people were the first abolitionists. Any movement that our country has ever had, Black women have been at the foundation of that movement. From we go to the modern civil rights movement, we can go to the movement of the 1920s, anti-slavery. Black women have always been there. We can cross over into predominantly white movements. They have always asked us to join it. Hey, we all got the same, join in our movement. They wanted our voice. They wanted our organizing power, our structure. We do something right. And it's reflected in our community and the growth that we have seen. And so, yeah, of course they want it. What do they say? They think we're magical, but we're not. This is really, truly hard work.
That is so true. That is so true. It is hard work. It is hard work. Whew, I wish we could segue into another session, but we'll talk about that more later.
I got you.
Anybody else? What would we say? Do you have anything that you want to say? Do you feel that the feminist movement was designed to include Black women?
I think the doc handled it. Doc handled it. She's already given us different historical, case studies and where we can see it. We all see it, and we make the most of that. But no, I'm going to say on the record, the movement was not designed with Black women in mind.
I think even if we look at history does in fact tell itself, right? Because if Black women organized and petitioned and marched and rallied the way that we have seen white feminists march and rally today, you already know we're going to jail. Mm-hmm. That's it. So I think even that is an indicator that there's not, a balance between that, and that we were never meant to be included in this organized community, but we're always there to use for the benefit of other people. So you made such a great statement about that, Erin, because I think what bothers me is knowing that it's literally been hundreds of years and nothing has changed. How do we keep preaching the need to evolve without actually ever evolving? And it's something that weighs heavily on me all the time, because we continue to hear people say, we're going to train you. We're going to, we continue to watch you do it on paper, but we see nothing within the heart. And I think that this weight bears the heaviest for Black women, because whether it's our children, our husbands, or ourselves, we are connected to Black people who are affected by the lack of change in this country. And so when we don't have people to join on board with us, or to ever include us, or to as Dr. King said, be true to your word, then we are still in the same place we technically were years ago. Black people are just taking advantage of more resources being made available. And that's what it comes down to. We've learned how to weaponize what comes forward. But truth be told, we still struggle to get the basic rights and basic fair treatment every single day. And this is especially true for Black women when we pull up the stats and data. It's still the same thing. So you're right. The movement was not, unfortunately, created for us. So this is my next question. In light of the fact that we can all agree that the feminist movement was not created for Black women, my next question is, what do you consider to be some of the most pressing issues? So I would like for each of you to share one issue that you consider to be the most pressing for Black women. And if you can't choose, what one would you talk about? So, what do you consider to be your most pressing issue as it relates to Black women? And let's start with Zakia because he's being kind of quiet back there.
I was just about to I just hit the mic as you said that. So I have one I believe that kind of sums up a lot of probably what would be said, and it's respect, and it's respect for our minds, respect for our bodies, and it's respect for our spirit and soul. Because when it comes down to it, we want we would like to be able to be afforded the same opportunities, similar experiences, as our white counterparts, and not just only that with our white counterparts. I think even too when it becomes when it becomes the issue of our community, and also too with how Black men treat us, how Black men perceive us. And I even look at it too from the religious standpoint, primarily because having worked in ministry, that whole spirit aspect as well. And I remember a few weeks ago just actually having a conversation with someone about Vice President Harrison, and the fact that this woman I was speaking to who did not believe that as a woman that we could actually lead, and I'm tying that into what I've experienced in churches, because that is sometimes the same thought, because of we can't lead because we're too emotional. We lead from emotional. Everything we do is a mood based. And I don't agree with that statement. And I often wonder with women who make those statements, if there is something within themselves that actually needs to heal, or something that actually needs to be brought forth as to why they are feeling this particular way. And that you don't respect the fact that not necessarily that we are equal to men, because I really don't have a desire to be equal to a man, but I believe that we can, in our own way, in our own right, the way in which God has innately designed, each of us can actually lead, and actually help with transforming the space and the place that He's given each of us. Yeah.
I love what you said. Look, digging into the Black church, and I'm so glad you brought it in, because a lot of people don't. Zakia is actually in ministry, and very deeply into ministry and ministry of the word. And honestly, when it comes to helping you understand your identity in Christ, is probably one of the most profound mentors, coaches, guides, ministers for that. And in doing so, because we have to acknowledge how important the Black church is in the lives of people today. But why is it that the church has not evolved, basically, as well? And that Black women who are powerful of leadership aren't really given those full opportunities within the Black church as well. That's and it's again. I mean, it's again so hilarious. So sorry, because I see this all the time. I see people who will say, "Oh, well, we'll let her preach, but she can't be the pastor." And it's so funny to listen to you say that, because it's not just men who say it is women. And when you made the very polite and beautifully coined statement that said, for our women who believe this, I believe there needs to be some healing to take place, because since there are some things undone.
Absolutely.
I listen to that very strongly. That's a powerful statement. That sis, if you look at another woman and believe she cannot lead because maybe you don't feel you're fit to lead, you need to heal. So that's a powerful statement. So to the elder ladies, any of you, what do you feel is the most pressing issue for Black women right now?
Shoot. Man, I have two. So I'm gonna say one. My first pressing issue, I believe, is representation. And not representation in the sense of how society has depicted us. But I mean, in this idea that there are only three to four types of Black women: the thought it. Sorry, you know I teach college kids. You know, the mammy figure, there is, so this representation, this how we think society thinks that we are as Black women. You know what I mean? And that is, as I'm a mom of Black girls, that is important to me. And I'm a Black woman, and you shouldn't be shocked when I walk into the room. You shouldn't be shocked that this is the meeting that I have as the dean. I am the presenter or the moderator. Like, you shouldn't be shocked by that. Hey, can you, like, I was in Kroger and I had left work. It's the grocery store here in the Midwest. And a lady walked up to me, of course, you know, white woman, she walks up to me and asked me, where is this? Now, my heels, I had probably taken my heels off and put on my flats by then, but I'm still dressed, obviously, for work, for my professional setting. But when she asked me where the oatmeal is, you know, this idea of only where Black women can be. We are your servants. We are your secretaries. We are your, I'm the boss. So I think about those things, and I think all sides kind of hit us with that. You know, men, I have definitely walked into a meeting and every other man in the room has been dressed as doctor or doc, and then it's Miss Lady or Miss, you know what I mean? It's this idea that Black women have to do so much more, not even an idea, it's real, that we have to do so much more to get your respect and recognition, and I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it from all sides. What else? And it's like the question, what else must I do, Lord? You know, what else can I do? Right, what else can I do to be saved? Like, what else can I do? And so I think about that. And then I think the other, as I've gone from teaching to administrative roles and education, is definitely pay. Because you ladies have already discussed about when Black women do something, that's why they always want us to be part of their movements, because we work our butts off and we represent, we organize our voice. Jamie, you said our voice always shakes the room. Yeah. So they want us to be part of their organizations, their movements, but then you have to be able to pay Black women for our education. You're paying me for the education. You're paying me for the experience. And you can't continue to not show me that respect. And that when you're only paying me 65 cents to the dollar for my counterpart, that is disrespect.
Yes, the ultimate.
That is disrespect. Oh, well, you know, women, especially in the education field, women teachers, you know, women, you know, they're okay. You get them $50,000, give them July off, they're okay. So they get to stay July home with their kids, they'll be fine.
They're fine.
Right. No, I have the same student loans and the same degrees that you have. I need the exact same pay that white women make, and I need the same pay that Black men and white men make. You know what I mean? So I know that was.
You said so many things that just you know, what else must I do? Like crime.
What must I do?
What else do I have to do? And when you talked about the Kroger issue, it's weird, but I don't doubt that all of us have had that experience. More than one time I've had people stop me in the store. I'm like fully dressed. I look like
earrings, makeup, done.
Exactly. I'm more dressed up than you are. And then you come and ask me where to find the Doritos. And I'm gonna be honest with y'all, I'm not always the nicest. I'm like, I don't work here. It upsets me, you know, like, because there is this idea that Black people only deserve positions of servitude. And I even had an experience where a woman actually knew I didn't work there. Yet, because she looked at me with the mindset of, oh, she's still a servant, I can still go ask her, she's still going to respond to me.
Right,
exactly. I'm a white lady, she didn't care. She did not care. And so you're absolutely right. We have some great comments coming in too. And one of them says, Black women have a lot of unlearning to do. And I'm not even digging into that one tonight, Miss Stephanie Broussard. I'm going to follow up with you because that's a whole session within itself. That's a full unpacking. And that is an unpacking that I talk about all of the time because I have been there. I believe every woman on this post has been there because Black women are conditioned to carry the weight. We are taught to carry the weight. We are programmed to believe that we have to be the fixer of everything around us. And woo, that's a loaded comment right there. That's a loaded one. Yes, it definitely is. Did you have anything did you want to respond? What do you feel is single-handedly the most important issue?
Absolutely, but I don't think I can keep it down in one. I have to stand in the amen corner with the doc on representation. I want to take the moment to acknowledge something that has happened personally. Dr. Sarah Louise McCoy, was the woman in Monroe who integrated then Northeast Louisiana State College. There's no sign of her there, no key to the city, no official day, no statue, no name on any building. Yet and still, no Black person would have been able to enter that institution had she not filed that suit. And even with her filing the suit, she was told that she didn't come from the right type of family. Well, people wanted to attach a man's name to that particular accomplishment in her life. And she endured a lot of things in order to make that a possibility. So representation and acknowledging those things personally and publicly are definitely things that Black women don't get to enjoy. Sometimes not even in their lifetimes, but people benefit over and over and over from our work. So that's one thing I wanted to add on to what the doc has said. I want to talk about reproductive justice. And a lot of people, have different things in their mind, but Black women are more likely to die giving birth. Right. So we can't ignore that there are health disparities. We can't ignore that sometimes women have to make decisions and that may get them so that they can avoid being in poverty. I'll put it that way. We have a number of different issues under the umbrella of reproductive justice that cannot be ignored. And not to mention that's the issue of equity. So I did hear her talk about the point that's important. But a lot of people preach this level of equality. So even within this feminist movement, they focus on equality when we should be speaking equity, right? So I don't need, what you have. I need you to make me whole. And so that should be the direction where we focus our attention, where it's an issue that Black women face and it's unaddressed. And just the last piece, echoing again, the issue of respect for Black women's humanity. And I did see other comments coming about conditioning of Black women to accept that. And so that is something that's really big, because earlier I mentioned how we expect Black women to suffer. It is normalized for us to embrace this struggle culture, even within dating. Oh, well, stick with me. Hold on to, you got to go through all of this to be acknowledged in the end. And so we've got to stop that. We've got to have respect for folks' humanity. We've got to definitely give equity to Black women, and we need to pay attention to issues of reproductive justice, because we bear the legacies of our families.
Well, I think, and when you say equity versus equality, the reason that we must seek equity is because at the end of the day, unfortunately, the Black community is a deficit. We're still about 400 years in overtime. Don't ask me when I'm always tired. When my great, all my grandmothers worked for free. We're all still worn out.
Yeah.
So when we talk about the matter of equity, I mean, that's directly what it goes to. Technically, the Black community is in a huge deficit, and we continue to end up in one because they want to undervalue our houses when we put them on the market. They want to pay us less. They don't want, that we're being refused the opportunity to be promoted. So it continues to put us in a red, or put this country in a red with us, right? Because we are old. Time and time again. So the concept of equity is so important. You all are hitting so many conversations. Woo! Y'all got me with the chill. Y'all know I get emotional. I'm not crying tonight, okay? But I am filled because this is so important. So important. And you're talking about some things that we must talk about. We have to stop talking on the surface of Black woman issues because it's much deeper, and Black woman issues are Black community issues. When the woman is not well, the saying is so true. People laugh all the time when you see a lot of people say happy wife, happy life. But it's because the woman is the emotional component, right? that has the key to give balance to everybody. That's why people love Black women so much, because we carry the weight well. But it's time for us to stop carrying the weight, and as Stephanie is saying in the comments, and experience what it's like for us to be free. Experience what it's like for us to live in the fullness of this life. So what you're talking tonight is so, it's so heavy, but I feel just pounds coming off me. Pound, not in a physical sense, because but in the emotional sense, right? There's things that's coming out that must be put into the atmosphere if what we say, if what we desire is really to see both Black women and Black families excel. These are vital conversations we must have. So my next question is, why do Black women continue to rescue companies, communities, and families, despite the fact that we know we will not be appreciated?
Can I just say that Black women do not want to be tied to things that don't excel, because we do excel. And as long as there's breath in our body, let me say something that I'm English teacher. It won't not function on our watch. That's what we're saying. So we also have bought into the promise that this country has, right? To the ideals of America, and making it live out the promise. So those are some things that we cannot ignore that keeps fueling Black women. And also we know the strength in our position within these organizations. If you pull out, or you didn't give them talking points under the table, or whatever the case may be, it would have been a lost cause. And so, again, a lot that we do is for the collective and literally to uplift others. I mean, you've seen all the memes and the different videos of such where people have put out signs of appreciation to Black women who could see them struggle and say a word to encourage them. So it's something that's in our DNA. It's innate for us. I think that's just where it's coming from. It's just what we do.
It's true.
It's what we do.
It's true. It's true. Anybody else? Why do you think we continue to give, even though we know we won't be appreciated?
I think that you hit it. Like, we don't want anything that we are associated with to look bad. Our community, our children, our churches, the companies we work for, and people know that, and so they continue to take advantage of our grace, our graciousness, our organizing power, our strength, our intelligence. We know that if we ask Jamie or Aaron to show up and work an event or program or organize event, from everything down to the speaker being taken care of, to the flyers being made, to the garbage being taken out, we know that all those points are going to be covered. But that is something that we not only do we need to force the white community to say, hey, stop. We also need to tell our communities to stop and to recognize us, and to usher in and to help. You know what I mean? And that it can't just be Black women all the time. It can't just, we have the cape, but I need your help, and I can't be the only one, or we can't be the only one. Here, yeah.
Look, the idea when you ladies say we don't want anything that we touch to fail, it's so true. It's true. I think about education. I think about corporate businesses. Like, the Black woman is not playing, even group work. A Black woman is not, she will be mad sitting up till 12 o'clock that night, but my group is not about to look a mess. And she may get up there and show the whole group what she has to present. But at the end of the day, if it's on, in the words of the y'all mean, not on my watch, we're not having it. We are not having it. If I have to be in charge, this is about to be pulled together. And to a fault sometimes, because we're willing to put ourselves last. And quite often people know that the Black woman is not going to let it fail. So they'll wait on us. They'll rely on us. They'll say, well, we know if we put such and such over it, it's going to get done. And they may not necessarily express that that's what the expectation is, but they already know who you are, who we are, what our beliefs are, what our culture is. which is that if my hand has to touch it, it's going to be excellent. And sometimes it frustrates me because we're excellent just by showing up. And we don't always even realize that we are absolutely excellent by just showing up. So, now y'all got me in my feelings.
I didn't know Zakiya was going to jump in, but y'all made me think about Henrietta Lacks. Her sales are still given.
Yeah.
Her family's not being compensated, but I'm just saying these contributions that we make, that type of sacrifice, our DNA is still giving. And if y'all don't know about Henrietta Lacks, look that up. Women's History Month, y'all.
Yeah. Zakiya, did you have anything to add on, or do you want me to start off the next question with you?
I did want to add, I feel that at the core of every Black woman is hope, eternal hope, and optimism. And even though we sometimes find ourselves in the kamikaze of overextending ourselves, putting more into things than what we maybe should or whatever, it is the whole ideal that we want things to succeed. We want things to be of benefit, especially when you work I feel like in the nonprofit arena and education and things of that sort, to actually someone to benefit, because you realize that what it is that you're doing extends beyond you, and that eventually, that the outcome is going to affect someone else's life for good. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have about 4 questions, but I don't want us to go too long. I know that you all have schedules and lives and families. So I'm gonna bring this in as the last question. And as you know, I usually do a poem to close us out. So I want to make sure that we have time and don't overstay our hour and a half. Even though I don't know about y'all, but I can do this all night because this is invigorating. So my question is, I'm gonna give you this one. What are some actions that the Black sisterhood can take to strengthen the Black sisterhood community? I think that's a good one to kind of close with.
I think that's a good question. I teach at a historically Black college, so I have I get like the pleasure, to touch Black minds and to see Black children coming into college. And I also went here for undergrad. So it's like a different type of pride. And for anybody who attended at HBCU, there's a different type of pride in attending an HBCU and then transitioning into an educator, something about it. And I tell my young ladies that, at HBCU, we have become so comfortable, or Black churches or Black communities, that we don't do the whole Black girl nod, the Black girl respect when it's just us. Mm-hmm. I mean, in that sense that if I'm at a conference or in a meeting or at a PWI going to graduate school or something, if you see me across the room or you see that other Black girl across the room, just give her the look that says, we don't have to know each other. We don't have to, but we can do that. Girl, I got you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's just when I see you in the hallway, when I see you, definitely for graduate school, was a different experience to me. I went from an HBCU to a predominantly white institution with 23,000 people. So that was and just that idea of, I see you, I got you. Nothing is going to, I'm not going to allow anyone to attack you in this meeting. I'm not going to allow anyone to attack you in this class. And we don't necessarily have to agree in private, but publicly, I always got you. When I see you in the grocery store, wherever I see you, I'm giving you that. It's just this, you know what it is, ladies. It's just that just says, hey, I'm here. I see you over there. And if I get, I'm gonna say, I like you. I like your hair. You read, you know what I mean? And it's just that constant uplifting of Black women that we have to continue to do. And it should be this idea. Well, what does she have on? Or I could see her do that later. But in initial,
right now, exactly.
Right, in a mixed setting, and it's only me and you, or me and you and 4 other people, and it's 100 of them. Like, have my back. You know what I mean? And that, to me, that's the one thing I think would improve Black sisterhood, just being there for one another, being able to, help, and just giving that quiet assurance of, Black girl, I got you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I love it.
I'd like to piggyback on what she's saying. And I feel that, and I've mentioned a little bit about this before, is heal. And there's an analogy I have for heal that I believe that each of us has the ability to do, or that we should do. And that the H stands for healing whatever has kept you bound. But because one of the reasons there is a breakdown in the sisterhood is because of some of our own past hurts, our own insecurities. Social media has played so big into that. So when we do enter these rooms where there are other sisters, and I'm always pumped and energized, like, yeah, I'm in here with my sister. But there are so many women who can't get past that because they immediately come in and they begin to compare, or all of their insecurities just come out, and then so it puts a bound there. So maybe there's somebody, you're in the room and Alicia's there, and Alicia could probably connect, but because of the fact that since you ain't healed, you're gonna miss the blessing that Alicia got for you. The other thing is to involve, and tear down those walls of what you have been told that you cannot do and that you should not do. Just like Shirley Chisholm, go on in there, had the audacity to do what they say you can't, no matter what the outcome is. The next one has to do with aligning with your purpose according to what the Creator has actually designed for each of us to actually do. Because the fact of the matter is that every one of you queens on here and every queen in this world has a purpose path that has been set out for us before we was even born, even thought of it, honey. And so therefore, it is imperative that we learn to align with what it is we do and stop trying to do and copycat what everybody else is doing. You can maybe use somebody for inspiration, but we got to stop this whole thing of doing what everybody else is doing because it looks like it's making them some money. It looks like it's bringing some attention because there's so many folks who are getting into the mix of things, but it ain't what you called it. It ain't what you called to do. I'm gonna leave that alone, Jamie. You know how I feel about that. the L stands for live, because this is the one life we get, and we need to live it all out. We need, and that's why it is so important that our healing comes in and that it takes place. And and healing is not a one-time event. I always say that sometimes the church talks about deliverance, but honey, deliverance sometimes is years. It's a process that sometimes some of us might get it instantly. Some of us it's going to take us a while to get out of it. But by the whole act of us actually living, I believe that we live more fulfilled. We live more lives that have more meaning, and purpose is fulfilled not just for us, but it is fulfilled however God has intended for it to be out here on this earth, because it is beyond you and is about what you've been called to put on the earth to bring God glory. So I mean, sermon, but that that was yeah. I felt all that.
Amen. Amen again. Okay, that was wonderful. Oh, I guess I'll jump in here. The sentiments that have been expressed, again, you are right. These are dynamic women. And I want to add to and expand the comments for Dot. It's okay if I call you Dot. So the issue of uplift, right, for Black folks is always going to be key to strengthening a sisterhood, because we can't do things without each other. And we know that we do come from, we've heard it all night, a collective system. So another action that we should partake in is communing together. You can get so much strength from good energy from women sharing stories and experiences. So with the key to mention healing, we have to create those sacred spaces for our sisters and be able to pour into them to help them with a restoration process. So I think that's pretty key. And not only when you do that, you can see, and I love this as a conference every year, you can see the power rising, right? You can see that power, you can see the bond of the sisterhood being strengthened. So those are some things. And I guess if I wanted to take it even deeper, I want to see 1 million Black women after the pandemic bonded together and celebrating all of us in all of our glory,
Yeah.
and
Yes.
pouring into young women as well. So that's another thing, showing young women what to do, sharing with them real experiences where you misstepped, and just being real with them so that they don't have to make the mistakes that some of us made. Having
Yes.
a shoulder to cry on, having that ear to listen, it goes a long way because we can show ourselves that compassion and start by showing ourselves the humanity so we can teach others
Mm-hmm.
how to treat us. So
Absolutely.
I think
Absolutely.
all of you shared such amazing jewels, and I'm going to say I'm right here with you because for me, I say it's just being love and compassion has been the key for everything, and I share that a lot. People know I'm a hugger, like I am the hugger. I am the talker. Um, but I feel that there has been so much weight placed upon Black women that we still don't fully talk about. And sometimes we pretend that we don't understand.
Yes.
And so handling each other in love, um,
Mhm.
and keeping comments that are not going to be kind about people to a minimum, but especially when it's your Black sister.
That's right.
Because there are more than enough people out there waiting to tear us down. I remember when people were saying a few weeks ago, talking about Cardi B and Meg Thee Stallion performing, and they were like, they want to be mad at Dr. Seuss. Dr. Seuss was a racist, number one. Let's not defer from that. And then, but they're on TV dancing. I'm like, but when Madonna did it, and at the end of the day, I came back to this. I said, we already don't get paid enough as Black women. So however many millions Megan and Cardi B got tonight, mind your business, okay? Because at the end of the day, it's not about whether I agree with it or I support it, but it's about as long as we allow people to continue to destroy a Black woman and treat the Black woman as if she is everybody's issue, the world will continue to do that.
Mm-hmm.
They will continue to seek out a Black woman
Mm-hmm.
to place the blame on her on every opportunity possible. If she's there, let's throw it on her. When Stacey Abrams lost the first election, oh, let's talk about her finances. Well, if you paid her more as a Black woman, gave her equal pay, she wouldn't have so much debt.
Absolutely.
If she had an
Absolutely.
equal opportunity at the table, like her white male counterpart, she wouldn't have so much debt. Yet here she was trying to put a cape on to change this state, and all you could do was talk about her. All you could do was belittle her. All you could do was ostracize her. And we hop in on these conversations publicly, and we eat other Black women up whenever we should be looking out for each other. I don't need to know you to look out for you. I don't need to know you to empathize with you. But I am a Black woman too. And I go through a whole lot of things. And if I'm going through it, imagine if I had the whole world looking at me. How would it feel to be a Black woman in my shoes when all I'm trying to do is make it however I can? The odds are stacked against me as a Black woman too. So we have to think twice about what we say and how we treat each other. Because then society uses that as an opportunity. I will no longer give society the shotgun to shoot my sister down. Because if I cannot be the one to lift you up, I would try to keep my mouth shut. And that's even being from a personal standpoint. Because there are many times I could have fired off a shotgun, but chose otherwise to remain quiet because at the end of the day, I realize that you are a Black woman just like I'm a Black woman, and you may have more issues than I do. But if you have even more issues than I do, since you really face some battles.
Yeah.
And so loving each other, empowering each other, lifting each other, supporting each other. I wish I could hug all of y'all tonight because I'm so emotionally full right now to even have this conversation. Because since the time that I published Trek till now, Zakiya will tell you all, I'm just constantly coming out of weep mode about what Black women go through, what we deal with. And we get up and we make it look graceful every single day.
Oh, yeah.
And we don't complain. We take whatever this world gives us. We can't get fair medical treatment. We still go to the doctor. We can't get fair pay. We still clock in at the job. We haven't had fair access. We still to grants and things like that. We still want to be entrepreneurs. You know, we still do it, even though we know that when we walk in the room, the odds are against us. And so being more loving and patient and compassionate to each other is going to be such a big thing. And so it's 8:30. Of course, I want to close out with the poem that I have for you guys tonight. And I hope this fits Black women for Women's History Month the perfect way. And I hope it resonates with you. And I'm going to click right out. So beforehand, I have to always remind you all that my novel Trek, which is about Black women, is on Amazon. So get yours if you don't have it, because it digs more into things like what we talked about tonight. But the piece I want to share with you guys is called Sun-Kissed Goddess. And if I get in my feelings, just forgive me, because you know how I am. But it's about Black women and how truly magical we are. Sun-Kissed Goddess, melanin glistening in the sunlight. Oh, what a wonder you are. To the eyes that behold your radiant beauty, exquisite you are. Astonished are we, for the intrigue of your powers is inexplicable. Sister, how do you shine so brightly when the light's within? How do you speak to our souls without saying a word? How do you paint the perfect picture with just the stroke of a brush? You are magical, sister. Haven't you heard what melanin blessed goddesses do? The way we trade our beauty for someone else's ashes and still end up with beauty every single time. The way we make the biggest moves in the tightest spaces. The way we make something out of nothing and nothing out of something. Even our imperfections are perfectly created. Sister, how do you heal a man's broken heart with a simple smile? How do you always find the silver lining if the cloud is blackish gray? How do you receive the least, but still do the most? You are magical, sister. Haven't you heard what melanin blessed goddesses do? Ain't no abracadabra in this. Nobody can voodoo remix this. There's no scientific explanation to this. It's just who we are. It's just what we do. Sister, how are you the strongest woman on earth but never bench pressed or squatted? How do you bring light to a dark room with no windows or light bulbs? How do you raise a nation but only give birth to one child? You are magical, sister.
Yes.
You heard what melanin blessed goddesses do. We live. We thrive.
Yes,
We
indeed.
give life to everything around us. And Black girl, don't you know that you are the magic? Sun-kissed goddess, melanin glistening in the sunlight. Oh, what a wonder you are. To the eyes that behold your radiant beauty, exquisite you are. Intrigued are we, for the enchantment of your powers is enigmatic. I hope that everybody tuning in tonight has been able to gain something, empowerment, a clear perspective of how to value and support the Black women in your life. I hope that you take away from this live a sense of empowerment and spiritual growth. And most importantly, I hope that when you walk away, you are constantly in thoughts about how you can be a part of helping Black women move forward.
Yes.
When Black women move forward, this country moves forward. When Black women are given a fair chance, this world has a fair chance. But until we celebrate and give Black women the honor they deserve, until we fight and advocate with Black women the way that they deserve to be advocated for, there is no real feminist movement without embracing the needs of all women.
Amen.
There is no unified cause without unity. And so it is my hope that every woman that has tuned in tonight feels a spiritual reawakening. It is my hope that any men who have tuned in are talking to your mothers, your daughters, your companions, and your female friends about how you can be a more vital part of their success. And most importantly, I want to thank the women who tuned in tonight to be a part of this discussion. I purposely chose you, and I'm so thankful that you accepted. You are inspiring to me all the time. You are a bright light, and I know that you are making powerful strides in this world for not just Black women, but for everyone. So this is a very emotional experience for me because it means so much to see our Black girls go forward in greatness.
Yeah.
Or whether you are mothers, aunts, community leaders, whatever role you're playing right now, I appreciate everything that you're doing. And most importantly, I appreciate you for being here tonight. Thank you so much, and I hope everyone has a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny.